There are 5 don'ts that keep you from trouble. So think of it this way: you are what you eat. You are what you give. So whenever you do anything, it always gets back to you. That is what karma is all about. So there are 5 actions that the Buddha tells us not to do in order to keep us away from being in trouble. Number 1, abstain from harming or hurting any beings or life forms. Basically, it means that when we hurt something, it's starting from our mind, that we act on our anger, act on jealousy, is called our judgment. So we want to justify our life by hurting someone else, disregarding that a person or others, animal, would cherish their life like you have, which means that you don't really care about others people will be feeling about. As a result of that, we begin ourselves become insensitive about it. So that will also in turn lead us to become even more insensitive of others' life forms or other people. And that leads to become more cruelties, become more selfish, and that leads to another bad habits coming onto life. So that's why we shouldn't act on that kind of feeling. Moreover, as our life, we love our life very much. Everybody loves their own life as well. So we should not be violating other people's life because they also love their own. So this is the first part. Not technically vegetarian though, but killing and eating are not the same actions. Technically, eating and killing are not the same thing. So as Buddhists, we will refrain from killing or hurting any animals or any life. But if the animal already died, then it's just eating the elements of the flesh. So we consume in terms of the energy as well. So think of it this way: an eagle will hunt to eat, while a vulture will eat the carcass that's left there. So when other people are killing something, it doesn't have to be because they're eating them all the time. Although if you feel uncomfortable with eating meat, it's okay to be vegetarian. But if you at least feeling that you still want to eat meat, just don't hurt anything. Because sometimes, let's say people go fishing, they fish for fun. They don't even fish for food. They fish and let the fish go back because they said fish don't feel hurt, don't feel any pain. So that's insensitive. So there are big difference between eating and killing. So start off by not killing or hurting any life. Let's start by putting yourself in other people's shoes. Whenever you're doing something towards others, whether people or animal, just imagine the same action is done upon you. What would you feel? So if there's a hook in your mouth and being dragged in that way, how would you feel? So in the same way though, the fish or the other animal will also have the psychotic feeling as well. They wouldn't want to be hurt. So at least by you putting yourself in that way, it develops something called empathy. And empathy is one of the key elements that keeps the world a lot better place, because it helps us to see, to feel others people's emotions and feeling, and it helps us to be more careful what we should act and should not act on others. I totally agree if you say that you live in the conditions where meat is a necessity rather than something that really come out of luxury. But in that way, whenever you have to do certain kind of action that you know that is wrong, there's a big difference about consciousness. Do something that is wrong, but I have to do it. Comparing with, I do it out of the joy of doing something wrong. So the first one, I know that this is not right, but I have no other choice. The negative energy you generate will be less because you come out of necessity. Number 2, you try to limit your action the least as possible. So it's not like, okay, I'm gonna slaughter the cow just for fun of it, or so that I can just have excessive food to eat. But this is like the minimum you will take. So in that way, at least if you have to do it in the kind of environment, limit it to the least possible. And also become aware that right now I owe that life. I owe my life to that life. I have the energy from that life. So I should use this energy that I got in a more creative and constructive ways, at least to make it worthy. I know that a lot of time people think about the second-hand killer as a meat eater. Is kind of famous concept because nowadays you can see things based on this law of economy where demand equals supplies. But this thing goes back long before that. Let's put it simple. Human kill human every day, even they don't eat the meat. Just, it's not always the case that if the eating ended, the killing will stop. Because killing has more factors than that. For example, in the case of the law of karma, it was something that people are holding on to each other. So the times that they end up taking turns of killing, turn and turn, again and again. In the same way as, like this sense of killing, that people sometimes kill other person. It's not because this is the first time they're holding on to each other. So this is a cycle that goes on as well. So even though we don't eat, it doesn't mean that killing will be stopped. That's why I said that if you don't feel comfortable, you can choose to be vegetarian. But just because being vegetarian doesn't mean I am a better person, I am not killing anything. It's not, because you don't kill anything from the beginning, even if you eat them or eat meat. But if you don't feel comfortable, then feel free to be vegetarian. So that is the line that you should distinguish. So number 2 action that we should not do is stealing. Besides our life that we love very much, we also love what we have and what we own, which means everyone will love what we have and feel possessed about it and don't want anything be taken away from them. So therefore, we shouldn't take from others, because it will cause other troubles and sufferings in life, which means that I will just say, okay, my life worth more than others, so I can just steal and take advantage from someone else. So that's why it becomes something that you should have been doing. Plus, if you steal from someone, the feeling, at least, if we don't talk about karma or future life, at least when you're stealing someone, you feel like you have to look back over your shoulder all the times, feeling insecure whether someone will know that you have stolen from others or don't belong to you. So that sense of security is gone the moment you steal something from someone. The concept of stealing in Buddhist context, basically that if anything does not belong to you, if you does not earn it, if you take without permission, it's considered as stealing concept. So basically, even if you are in the authoritative position that you can make decision and you use your power for your personal gain, that is also a kind of stealing as well, because it's not something that you earn honestly and decently. So ultimately it falls into concept that you take things that don't belong to you, that you don't deserve it. So when it comes to stealing, it's related to something called the righteous career or righteous livelihood, which means that when we make a living, it should come from decency, that we must not end up taking advantage from someone or making things that don't belong to us or using our power in the wrong way for our personal gain. So those are called as stealing as well. You'll probably call it corruption in many various kind of forms. Just because something is done all the time doesn't mean it's right. There are a lot of confusion because there are certain kind of norms to be bribing in certain kind of places or culture, and it seems normal to do it. But in reality, you know it by heart that this is wrong. This money that you got doesn't belong to you. The money that you pay because you don't want to go according to the system. So for example, if you run a factory, you give this certain amount of money so that you avoid having proper water treatment. So you reduce your cost by bribing someone, but the end of the cost that goes down to the river and natural water sources contaminated all of those. So you create greater effect on others by deciding to bribe the authority. So you see that your actions can also create bigger effects. And that's also fall into this concept of stealing as well, because you end up trying to save your own money instead of taking the money, but you end up saving your money or saving your expenses that you should be paying for the responsibilities of your other actions. So number 3 that you should be doing beside our life and our properties, the third thing that we love is our own family, which include our spouse, our children, or even our relatives. When we have someone in our family, and if they are going to end up with somebody, we would want to have approval, we want to see the person is like. But if I commit sexual misconduct, taking someone's spouse, committing adultery, or engage in someone's kids before the parents knows about, or giving consent, when the parents or their guardians or the family found out later, that would be devastating. They wouldn't feel right. So in the same, we shouldn't be doing towards others in the same way, because meaning the way we cherish our family members will be the same as others people will be sharing as well. So that's why number 3, abstain from committing sexual misconduct. The most important thing about sexual misconduct would be the lie in each society. Because in some society nowadays, the pre-marriage sexual engagement is becoming a norm, but at least in the society, the parents will already begin to give in consent in certain level, because after a certain age, let's say in Western countries, for example, they know that after a certain age, a person is considered as grew up and have the right to make their own living. So in the way, they're giving consent. Compared with some of the Asian culture where the parents still feel that as long as the wedding or the marriage has not been committed yet, it's still a child is still under my own supervision. So you see the mindset of consent are vary in terms of different society. But nowadays what happens is that when person living in a close society try to adopt that without the consent of the parents yet. So that leads to what you should think about how the parents or the guardians of those families will feel like. In that way, when you look around your context, you can really realize the norms, the culture, the traditions, and what you should be complying with in order to make sure that the family of that person feeling entrusted on you to have their family member with you. Desire is not easy to control, but it's not too hard not to act on. My point is that we always have cravings, like, let's say when you're on diet, you're walking on the street, you're passing McDonald's, and you just crave for French fry and hamburger. But it doesn't mean you will go in and buy it every single time. You have something else you uphold that, oh, this is not right. I have to take less calorie, I have to eat healthier. So even though I crave that so much, but I should stick to something that better for me, more positive for me. It's the same as you control your own desire on other aspects. You uphold certain kind of values which you know by heart that this is the right thing to do. This is a good thing to do. This is not something I should do in order not to violate someone else. So if I see someone that, oh, I like that person very much, she's really hot, but she's already have someone else, and it would be wrong for me to hurt some other people feeling based on my desire. So even if I have my desire, I should not act on it. That's for the start. And when I don't act on it more often, it will help me reducing that desire over time. But if I let desire lead my life, I will end up pursuing everything I desire, and it will never be fulfilled, because desire is an empty pit that never be full. The fourth thing that you shouldn't be doing to keep you from trouble is not to use abusive speech or lying. In our life, words hurt more than action sometimes. When someone cut you with a knife, you feel hurt just one time when it was cut, but afterwards it's gone. But whenever someone says bad things to you, each time you think about it, it hurts for a lifetime. Every single moment you think about it. That's why words really hurt. So whether it is when someone body shaming you, or using abusive words, teasing you, mocking you, or lying to you, those things really make you feel really, really bad. And if you don't want this to happen to you, that means you shouldn't be doing this towards other people as well. Basically, it means that if you're going to be speaking, number one, speak with the truth. Always the truth. Even though sometimes you think, oh, I can use white lie for little things, but that means you create another habit. And that is the habit to take an easy way out. Rather than you face reality, you adopt the habit just to dodge the trouble instead of facing the challenge and resolving it. Number two, having good intention. That intention must bring certain kind of result, good result. So if you're going to be saying something meaningless, it's better not to say that, keep it to yourself, because it doesn't create any constructive values at all. So it must have certain kind of purpose and objective. Number three, it must come from your kind heart. So let's say when you get upset, the word you are saying will convey one meaning. Even though You may say something very polite, but even the tone of your voice, a person can sense how harsh it could be. So when you say something out of kindness, even sometimes the truth can be hurt, but at least a person can feel your sincerity because it's come out of your kindness, that you're saying something or giving advice just for the benefits of the other party. So that's why number 3 is to speak out of kindness. Number 4, choosing the right words. That words also mean the right tone of voice, the right facial expressions. Even though sometimes, like, okay, you say your friend has very terrible mouth breath, and then you can just say your mouth stink. It will hurt a person so badly, even though you say, with the right purpose, it's kindness, it's the truth as well, but the word that come out can be wrong. So you can really navigate your words a bit more subtle in sort of kind of way that not end up embarrassing the other party. Number 5, if you are going to be speaking, and the most important thing too, choosing the right place and the right time. Even though you have the first 4 properly, but if it's at the wrong place at the wrong time, let's say that if the other person is or sort of moody, that person will not be able to hear anything that you say, probably end up getting upset with you for saying the truth, even though a person knows it's right. So choosing the right place and the right time is all about becoming aware whether it is appropriate, it is suitable, it is something the person doesn't end up feeling embarrassed so that they can hear it from you. So these are the 5 factors that can help you evaluate that things that end up saying not being abusive or harsh or telling lies. Truth, purpose, intention, kindness, right words, right place and time. Number 5 of don'ts that you shouldn't be doing to keep you from trouble is not to consume intoxicant. If you look at on your life, your mind is the most important asset of all. Because of your mind, you can make good judgment. It can come up with positive thinking, creativities, innovations, a lot of things starting from of your mind. Your mind creating thoughts. Thoughts become physical action and verbal actions. Things that you engage always coming from your mind. The moment that you intentionally reducing that ability of being conscious, it means you intentionally reducing your own judgment and values. And that means that you reduce the quality of your action afterward as well. So the moment you take intoxicant, your mind will be diluted. It reduces the quality. So that's why when you abstain from consuming intoxicant of any kind, you try to ensure that whatever happens with me, every action that I do, it comes from my consciousness. It coming from my knowing that this is right and good, and that's why I choose to do it. So don't consume intoxicant, and it help you to keep the first 4 and not to do it a lot easier because your mind is intact. Just like I said before, that because everybody is doing something doesn't mean that it's always right. Just because liquor is sold everywhere doesn't mean that consuming them is right. Although I understand that some people will say I'm a responsible drinker, so I'm not going to get drunk. But then again, the question will be, does it necessary for you to drink at all? We try to make something that is excessive become a necessity. Your body doesn't need liquor. It doesn't give you any benefits, health benefits or physical benefits. So when you choose to take it, it causes harm to yourself as well. So you're intentionally doing that. So which means that you can also decide to avoid them as well. So that's why I recommend that intoxicant, even though it's out there everywhere, and it seems to be easy to buy or to consume it, but it can be the choice of you. And you don't have to believe me. Why don't you start by not consuming it and see what your life would be like? There are a lot of testimonial of people who used to be even just a small drinker every single day, but the moment they decided to quit it, they started to feel differences in terms of the judgment, the clarity, the consciousness that they got, their life starting to turn better, their health turning better as well. So you can take all those testimonials to look at it. The way you choose to do with your body and your mind will have the longer effect than just one day. So why don't you take a look and give it a shot? I have heard that people say that they use liquors or alcohol just to be more creative. From myself personally, personal experiences, I can find it something like this. When we are conscious, we have certain kind of norms and values that we know this is the right thing to do, this is the good thing to do. There are certain lines that I will not overstep because I know in my heart that is wrong. The moment that that line is blurred is when I lose the consciousness, is when I was clouded. So whenever the effect of alcohol contaminated my judgment, that line becomes blurred. Doesn't mean that creativity, that I thought it would be creative, is a good thing. So let's say I could end up doing something very stupid because that line of judgment becomes blurry. But I get more sort of courageous in doing something that I know deep inside this is wrong. The same thing when people say that I use alcohol just to have fun. So what kind of fun are we talking about? Is it kind of normal fun that you can do it when you're conscious? And why can't you have that kind of fun when you're conscious? Because there are a lot of things that usually when we are conscious, we're not going to be doing because we think that this is not right, this is not proper. But I choose to lower myself into that behavior by reducing my consciousness and consuming intoxicant. So you can weigh this thing, whether you choose to do this by using the right reason or those just as excuses, so that you can do something that, say, you're having fun with it. If any day you skip it, you break any of these 5 acts, the reason these are ranking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it started from thinking from yourself all the way to things that matters to you. So life is the most important thing that you have and you love. Then down into your property, your family, honesty. But then number 5 is what to keep the first 4 intact. Because in order to make it more practical, it means that you have to be able to be controlling your body and your mind. And that means when you are conscious, then you can control your behavior a lot better. So when you are able to keep you sober, it helps you to make clearer judgment on number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not to hurt someone, to hurt something, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to using abusive speech when you're conscious. But it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the sense that you're looking from the simple step, that from my life to what I have, to my family, to honesty. So these are how the 5 acts of precepts are working. Whenever you break any of these 5 precepts, it is okay to make mistakes. People make mistakes all the time. It's a lot better that you know you break it, because it means deep down inside you realize, oh, I shouldn't be behaving in this certain kind of way, and I may accidentally do it. So whenever you realize that, set your intention that from this moment, I will keep this 5 precepts intact. I will not make that kind of mistake again and start over. It's okay to restart because at least you know that you shouldn't be doing certain kind of way, and that realization is a lot more important. Rather than comparing with some people who even still doing this kind of thing normally on the daily basis and still feeling right about it. So it means that they disregard those kind of values towards themselves and other people. So that's carry a lot of different weight. So let's start that each time you violate or you break any of them, set up your mind, set up your intention from this moment, I will not make the same mistake again.